Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with me, Christian Harris. Today's episode is a recording of a recent Safety Roundtable session where we dug into a question that touches almost everyone in our field. Are qualifications actually making us more competent, or have we just collected more letters after our names? Joining me is Dr. David Thomas, Senior Lecturer and Programme Lead for Health and Safety Management at Middlesex University in London, who I'll properly introduce in just a moment. It's a lively, interactive session packed with challenges to some deeply held assumptions about competency and qualifications. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, so let's get straight into it.
Welcome to the Safety and Risk Success podcast with Christian Harris. We believe that proactive safety and risk management powers business performance. Each week we explore this theme, sharing guests, stories, insights, trends, hints and tips. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms, and video versions are available on YouTube. But for now, let's join the conversation with Christian.
Okay, so thank you for joining today, everybody. Really pleased to see you all on this Safety Roundtable session with a fantastic guest, David. I will introduce David in a second. I'm going to spotlight him and I'm going to spotlight me so you can see our chiseled good looks on the screen if you're joining us by way of video. So today we're tackling a question that touches almost everyone in this community, health, safety, risk management. And the question is, are qualifications actually making us more competent, or have we just got more letters after our name? A bit of a controversial one, but I think that will make a good discussion. So my guest today is David Thomas. David's Senior Lecturer, Dr. David Thomas, sorry to give you the correct title, David. David's Senior Lecturer and Programme Lead for Health and Safety Management at Middlesex University. He's an IOSH volunteer leader, researcher, and he's spent years teaching safety professionals as a safety practitioner as well, and also asking hard questions about how we teach them. And David was keen to raise this as a topic. It fills in with a lot of other things that we see here and have spoken about before on the Safety Roundtable and the podcast too. So hoping this is going to be a really interactive session. David's got a few slides and then we'll get into it. But if you want to ask any questions, fire into the chat, or if you're feeling brave, you can go to reactions, raise your hand and come and have a chat with David, which I'm sure he and I would prefer. So welcome, David, and over to you. What got you thinking about this topic, I guess, firstly?
Something you put up later on. Previously, from a previous session, but this is something that's niggled me for about 10 years. The more I've got into higher education, and that builds on 30 plus years of practice, of which the first 17 years I was in operational management. I actually had under the Mines and Quarries Act, I was what was called a Section 98 appointee, which meant for the quarry I worked at, I was a manager.
Yeah.
Manager for health and safety included in that, which meant I was the expert. It was my risk. I was the duty holder, and the legislation forced you to be the expert. And it's fair to say I had safety professionals from head office coming up, and they would say your sign's in the wrong place, and you need to repair that drain there. That's that downpipe that's swinging a bit there, because that could hit a forklift truck if you get a force 9 gale. When I said, well, I've got my 32,000 incoming supply going down to 415 volts. Is it safe? And the safety professional looked at me and said, I've got no idea. They weren't competent. Which then got me thinking, well, the real risk that could blow people to kingdom come, it was right by the outside driver's workroom as well. It was locked, I hasten to add. It didn't have a padlock on it. So that was, I started to realize, what expertise is it out there? What are we trying to do? What is competency? And competency is something that's really is. I mean, it's my first assignment. I did my master's degree back in 2000. I focused on competency. It had niggled me for years, because we had the electrical engineer, the electrician, right? They said, well, you're the manager. You should know if that's right. I said, I'm not. So I went to head office. So who is in the organisation competent for saying that supply is correct? My electrician will go in there, open up the 415 volts and say everything's correct. He'll put his tester on there and do it in a safe way. But I use the word pre-Roman almost, because things, the temporary things went up and lasted 25 years. That was the clay industry, I hasten to add. Not, extreme rarity, but they went to the toilet pans and tiles, the clay did. So let's be perspective, not like gold. And then, well, who can head office is electrical engineer? Has the electrical engineer ever visited Wareham? No. Should they? And that got the conversation going. Who was my insurance to tell me what was on my site was correct? Because you couldn't be an expert in everything, and I realized it was,
Mm.
as a manager, it was asking the right question. And I put some thoughts on there. People have said that health and safety should be, is it a discipline? Is it a discipline? Is it a profession? Is it a skill? I'll let people go away and think about that. I've got one of my alumni students in the room, and she's heard me say all this before to students. But I'd ask people to think as well. Degree, what do you mean by degree? What degree? Because you have to understand what's in front of you. And in my days as chair of the IOSH with a long-standing vice chair, who was absolutely fantastic, and he said, Dave, if I want anything on a chemical site, I'm not going to go to IOSH. I'm going to look at the Institute of Chemical Engineers. They're professionals because they're people they've got the chemical engineering understanding. They understand the chemical risk. They understand what can explode and how. They understand the systems, how it's been engineered. That would be my first port of call. So
Yeah.
that's got me thinking, what do you mean by degree qualified? It's not just having a degree in OSH, it's what else we mean by it. So there were
Mm.
so many questions, so many thoughts have come up. So in short, that's part of my answer, but haven't got a lot of time, and it's not my war and peace of my life on here, I'm afraid.
That's fine. That's fine. So, I know you prepared a few sort of slides to run through. So do you want to run through those, and then we can sort
So
of
these are some thoughts, and they will be shared with people, and I don't profuse to be right, by the way. When you become a doctor, you go through the academic world of academia, you realize there's far more out there you don't know than what you do know. So I will say, therefore, I don't know very often because generally I don't have the evidence behind it. Um, so I use this word OSH education. So multiple questions that part of me wants to challenge and deconstruct perceptions and understanding of OSH qualifications. Because there are so many out there, and people around the world calling and saying, "What do you mean by it? In our country, you must do this and do that." Um, the aim also to stimulate discussion, because there's been great discussion on Christian's website before now, on his LinkedIn page, and I hope that people can carry on. And please really be challenging and put evidence in why things are right, why are wrong, or what would you do differently going forward. Um, all this for me is about getting the gravitas of the people in the discipline increased. And also I've got to consider career pathways. Where you're going to go, you go to an organization that have a job, you go for the job, advert, you apply for it, you carry out the elements of the job, you've done your audits, you've done your inspections, an OSH person. Then what's next? What's the next job in the organization? What's next? What's the boss's job? HR manager, production manager? Many people want a career out of it. Is it just hard hat and clipboard? Is it just monitoring data, creating a report on safety accidents, health and safety accidents? Um, so we have these concepts of what are training courses. We have those under a week, like managing safely and subject specific training. All right, back to training delivered as part of the risk assessment process. That's really what it should be. And there's a real challenge with that. Then consider stuff around fire. I think the game changers around fire risk assessment training. I'm aware of some organizations where, because the health and safety role includes fire safety, they're realizing the person that's a safety person doesn't have the skill set to deal with the additional burden of fire safety. Therefore, more money is needed, and that person may not be the right person to get that skill set. And consider who we're educating and training. And my issue with my thought is always that the duty holder should have the knowledge. They should know what the law is. The duty holder should know what they're doing. In the mines and quarries industry, which we used to have a great mines and quarries industry, and it had massive faults. As people follow me, I have people on LinkedIn who follow me from the mine with far more years of experience there. And they say they didn't get it right, but it was a manager ultimately was responsible. So these are some of the, ask yourself, who is it? Safety people, or are we is it really something where the manager needs to be the competent person? The manager should understand finance. They have business partners for HR to help them to make sure. They have accountants, but the manager will get the spreadsheet on where the payments are, what the budget is, and the managers that should understand it. And if not, they go back to the accountant and say, please explain what the spreadsheet is. Please explain what budget I've got. And we have this wonderful challenge about this is just looking at the training element, British Safety Council or IOSH accredited. Does it need to have that? What does the law say? And the example was we talked about the management regulations do talk about training. And the example is that I created something through the IOSH EWMG many years ago. And people were saying, is it IOSH accredited? Well, it's got the IOSH banner on it. No, but is it accredited by IOSH? Well, IOSH can't accredit its own awards. And yet, when I deliver this to organisations, they said it was better than IOSH ever produced officially because it was based upon 80% was based on the organisation's risk assessment. It came from the industry risk assessments. Therefore, it had to be relevant. And the people in the room understood the conversation. So ask yourself, what do we want and what does the law say? And back to these two things here, section 2.2c of the Health and Safety at Work Act. And that's what we have to do. Information, instruction, training, and supervision. And that's at all levels. It doesn't say operator level, it's all levels. So consider the organisation. On the right-hand side, many people say this means you must have a health and safety professional. It doesn't. I wasn't fussed about the person coming out telling me the sign had come off the wall. I wanted someone competent to tell me under 1989 electrical regulation things were okay, under Pure that the machinery was okay, and the insurance company would come in. They were my competent people for forklift trucks to make sure that the loading chain didn't fail. So we solved this myth, and HSE, I know the HSE did an improvement notice many years ago at Lewisham Council saying they must recruit somebody as a health and safety advisor, provided just advice. I'm not sure where that red line has come from, by the way. I haven't touched my screen.
No, I'm not sure. It must be some kind of setting on Zoom. You carry on. I'll try and solve that.
Okay. So then consider levels above level twos. We have NVQs at various level. Really focus on people learning in the workplace and how do we link health and safety to NVQs? So back in the late 1980s, 1990s, I was involved in writing some of the first ever NVQs for the China clay and ball clay industry in southwest England. And we integrated health and safety into the NVQs, linked to our training. I redesigned all the training at the time to ensure that NVQs were that the material was there. So when people were being trained in the workplace or assessed for competency, they were correct. Then consider degrees and diplomas. What do you understand by them? This is the challenge. And what do you mean by degree level as my starting point? If you've got a degree already in mechanical engineering or civil engineering or HR management, what qualification for OSH do you want? How is your practice going to be affected by it? Oh, a little tip off, by the way, many degrees like HR management don't include health and safety. People might think HR people know about health and safety. They don't. They're not trained it at their degree level. So we have different award levels, and we have guidance here from the UK government and some of the external standards we have about what each level means. So a level 3 is an A level, level 2 is a GCSE or whatever the 16 exam is. And then we have obviously your level 4, 5, and 6 being your 3 levels of undergraduate study, and your level 7 being your master's level. And this is where some of the challenge comes in. If you look on the right-hand column, it's where does IOSH membership, and IOSH being a member, an organisation I'm a member of, many of you will be members as well. We only have 3 levels of membership based upon that are relevant. Tech IOSH, Certified IOSH, and CMIOSH are aligned to those levels. And we've got NVQ level 4, it should be NVQ level 5. But the challenge is what's at the top. So we have 3 levels of accreditation, but we have 5 levels of study there. And yet IOSH accredit all the programs. And by the way, the CIH accredit the Environmental Health Awards. In reality, we have this here, and it gets even more confusing. And what it means in reality is, because IOSH can only accredit at level 6 and level 3, so you see the challenge at level 7. What do you mean? Level 7 really is a practice-based award that you use to get yourself to charter membership, because the work you do, that your assignments, your assessments, the learning, that equates to you equaling to your CPD. And of course, CPD is all about reflection, and much of level 7 studies about reflection across many disciplines. But what we have here is there's 2 points. Level 3 and level 6 means all level 3, 4, and 5 courses and programs are treated by IOSH as level 3. They can only accredit them at level 3. And level 6 and 7, they only accredit them at level 6. So you think your NVQ level 5 has been assessed, but it's only assessed as a level 3. And if you're a training provider and you are wanting to have your level 5 outcomes quality assurance from your level 5, then what added value are you getting from it? It's a bit like a health and safety consultant saying that they're expert in a subject when they're not, going in giving you assurance. So why should the awarding body be different to how we as professionals should behave? And I don't think that sounds right. I think if you're going on a level 7 award, level 5 award, level 4 award, there should be somewhere to give you assurance. Now, I do accreditations for a national body outside of the UK, and we're independent from any award, any professional institution. We're linked to the educational authority of that country, and that is really, really. There's a mission, Christian. There's someone wants to be admitted in the room. I've just seen that.
No worries, I'm doing that as we go. Yeah.
So I do think that we maybe some questions need to be asked. Why is it now? IOSH can't accredit to level 7, I know, and the same I think with CIH, because the Privy Council only says that the route for professional practice from level 6 to level 7 can only be through practice. You can't get a qualification to jump into it. I get that, but they've conflated in many disciplines between education and professional membership. So that's worth thinking when you're doing your awards. And I want you to consider the IOSH competency framework. 12 levels of now underneath that, of course, there's under those 12 categories, there are multiple entries for each. I think it's something like 60 or 70 separate sections you have to be achieved if you go through that. I actually like the framework. People like other peers out there like Dr. Don Cooper don't agree with me, but I do think that that's I actually like the background, because that actually does reflect what I was doing in practice, a lot of it. And then we have this framework of higher education bodies. So we have 2 documents I think are worth understanding when people are going through studies. How do you marry the 2 up? And there's an example of the IOSH competency framework. And it's interesting, the competency framework can inform job description, selection process, and learning development plans, performance management, and help embed positive behavioural values that add values to employees' technical expertise. I would ask how many people who are not in a health and safety consultancy role, i.e. your manager is your same discipline as you, in effect, those people working the corporate world, how many of you actually have used your competency framework to inform that? But there's something else that comes in. The QAA does talk about what holders can do. And it is higher education, so level 3 level is outside of scope. So level 4, so problem solving, you're talking about level 4 is evaluating the appropriateness of different approaches to solving problems related to their area of study and work. Level 7 is dealing with complex issues, both systematically and creatively making sound judgments, the absence of complete data. That's what a level 7 is. It's advanced level of study. And many established people come on the program who are chartered, struggle with it. Masters is not uninformed level of study, but there's only level 7 and level 6 is such, and level 5 and 4. I don't see how anybody can accredit just the two benchmarks, or just two stages, level 3 and level 6. So when you're doing studies and you're doing it, challenge what is going on, how the profession is being how the professional discipline is being managed. Because I think for every one of these statements, for each one of the 70 odd IOSH competencies, there should be statements at level 4, 5, 6, and 7, what that means the person doing it can achieve. Clear benchmark for each of the disciplines. So for broader risk management, for communication, what should they do for these different areas? And I say I command these documents too, especially the QAA framework. It really does. It goes up to level 8 to PhD as well. So consider the level statements at all 4 levels for each of the IOSH competencies. How do all PSRBs, professional, statutory, and regulatory bodies, how do they correctly evaluate awards at each level? So hopefully there'll be people in the HR world, in engineering world, can ask these questions as well. Back to my final comment there. Is it fit for purpose? Is what we're doing. Does it help you in choosing what to do? Now there's some thoughts. I could go for a tangent for each one, but for a current my starting gambit for 10, that's my thoughts at the moment. So I'll stop sharing and open the floor.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Dave. There's been lots of activity in the chat, so it's definitely seems to be provoking some thoughts, which is great. So, as I say, I'll work my way through the questions in the chat. But if anybody wants to be brave and come and chat to David and myself, then we'd very much appreciate that. But as a
Can I
starter,
make a quick
yeah,
thing? Seeing who's in the room. First of all, we have ex-inspectors in the room. I know ex-inspectors. I know academics who've done IOSH Commission work, who are unable to get charter membership of IOSH.
yeah,
Because it is a profession for those providing assistance to organisations. And when I was on council, we had many years ago, we were saying, and the presidents and the team at the time were keen that it's a family of health and safety people, and those people who are responsible for risk. And I think an inspector, I mean, inspectors are, a superb fonts of knowledge. I mean, EHOs as well. I had great time for all of them. They should be. It shouldn't just be because they've been demonstrating that for years, and some of them weren't able to get that charter membership. I think for a family of disciplines, where we're trying to raise the bar, there were some important members of our family. I think we unintentionally may be excluded. Just thought I'll throw that in there as well. Seeing who was in the room. Sorry, Christian.
yeah. No. Appreciate that. That's not a problem at all. So. Where you started off was, where we're thinking about trying to challenge and deconstruct perceptions. So, what's the biggest misperception around this subject of qualifications, would you say? And as a sort of follow-up to that, to what extent is this being driven by people who are recruiting for roles and they're almost just sort of adding on this qualification and that qualification without maybe really understanding what those
Okay,
qualifications are?
so I've spoken to recruiters, and recruiters are driven by, so the recruitment agencies are driven by the people recruiting. I've
Yes,
spoken
yes.
to one.
Just to be clear, I wouldn't be criticising the recruiters. I'd be criticising the whoever's specifying the job. Yeah.
And very often they'll just quote you for, and because the HR people of the company are recruiting know about a NEBOSH diploma, they'll just say must be NEBOSH diploma or NEBOSH certificate required. One being level 3 and one being level 6. A bit like saying, you know, well, things just think of mathematics, but at different levels. Doesn't fit. So you're back to this: where do people sit? So in terms of what a degree is, now I know people think health and safety, it's an easy way to become a professional. But if you went to visit an accountant or a doctor, clinical doctor, that has spent 1 year from being a first aider to doing open heart surgery in 1 year, you'd have specific concerns. Is that person competent? And yet the expectation people can do a master's degree in a mastery area to go to a level 7. And people, when people so people saying what should people be, so back to these levels you've got, what do you want post holders to do at different levels? If you're expecting to go on a degree, even though it's a level 6 and being told to do a risk assessment, well, where's the risk assessment training? Well, hang on, risk assessment is level 3 NEBOSH certificate. Why would it be on a level 6? And yet the expectation we include risk and cover it from that point of view. I think we've got it wrong, and we've got it wrong for a number of years. And I think part of it is we go right back to the management regulations. This competent person, we're there to it's the people there we're not there to advise, we're there to assist, and different levels of requirement. So if we look at the competency framework from IOSH, much of level 7 is about engagement. We are change makers, I say. Oh, Anne Isaacs has said something there, so you must pick up on what Anne says. And I go
Don't
back,
worry.
and I go back a while, Anne. So there's there's a multitude of factors. But I think, if you want somebody at level 7, they're change makers. Now, how many employers want a health and safety person coming in to make change? But level 7 is the level is because we're there to communicate, engage, and there's some great safety people I've met that how many safety people have made it as directors in their own right? Not as a safety director, but have transferred. So it's people being allowed to develop their careers to do that. So I think we're boxed in by this must be a competent. The competent person is the health and safety person. That's a myth that we've held on to for too long. Maybe we should let go of that, and we should be prepared to, you know, many people in the room have been told, you're a safety person. Why have you got an opinion on that? Being told to shut up by a manager. I have one manager saying, well, after I moved from management to health and safety, do you want my job, David? You're telling me how to do it. And I thought, is that an insult or is it a compliment? Because they clearly didn't know what they were doing.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, it's not an easy position, is it?
No.
We've got a couple of people with hands up. I think Zara, you're first.
Yes. Do you have my voice now?
Yes.
Okay. My question is that when we are talking about people, when we are talking about students, for example, this is the line, this is the process that I have. We have the qualification on one hand, and we have the competency on other hand. And the way to reach the competency is to go through a process, and that process is a master, is a bachelor. The question is that we are questioning those levels, and we are saying, okay, this is not enough for this level, this is not enough for that level, and we are not agreeing with this. Where is the issues? Do the universities, do the qualifications are under the questions, or we are questioning the competency that we are having already? And levels beside IOSH and HSC and NEBOSH aside.
You've loads a lot into there, Zara. I mean, the question is so if you become qualified in health and safety, is a degree the right route, or is an NVQ the right route? I mean, my master's degree when I did it down at Bournemouth, it was near as damn it an NVQ because assignments were based in the workplace, and we were able to help. So it's not about setting an assessment to look at some theory. So I think people quite understand that. Universities are under massive challenges to get students in the door. The current I mean our Prime Minister elect, whatever you think of him, let the cat out the bag that he wants to undo what what Blair has done in that saying that universities aren't there. Half the people shouldn't go to university, which is the university. I've seen no national statements on Prime Minister-elect Blair, Burnham rather. So be interesting how that goes. So universities are under challenge as well as to how they do it, how flexible they are. So that I know working at higher education establishment, we are looking to adapt to change and develop going forward. There's no lack of willing at that level. So, don't disregard the higher education statement. So I think there's massive things there, but again, it is, a university can't do everything. I mean, as someone said to me, the idea of going in, assessment on campus means exam based on what you've learned, which is, the change of AI have come to that, by the way, but also can you test that skill set on campus? So that's laboratories, and I remember engineering laboratories going in, compressing rock, etc., and look at the shape of that, or using electricity and creating things there with microprocessors and things. That shows my age when I say that. But if you can't do that, then how does university become relevant to that? So these are some real challenge there. And again, some more positive contacts coming out, and the cost of it as well. I mean, a NEBOSH, so a NEBOSH, how much, can someone tell me how much a NEBOSH diploma is these days? About £3,000-4,000, is it? A degree is upwards of £9,000 a year. Is that correct for the NEBOSH diploma? Is it £3,000-4,000 in a shorter period of time without a project? So in different horses for courses. A university can give you the research skills. I noticed the NEBOSH degree at Hull, a lot of the elements there are teaching people the research skills in their taught modules. So people going in with a far higher questioning, being able to go in and analyze data, evaluate data, use what they call qualitative data, which is interviews, and far more where, again, many managers, especially from a finance basis, don't like opinion. They like hard fact. They consider hard facts only to be numbers of accidents or days off ill health. They don't look at the qualitative side, but it gives you that ability to have it. So there are some routes going forward that I think we've got to look at going forward. I'm not getting old in my career. It's your generation, Zara, has got to make that change and look into it. So I'm going to push that back to you as well.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you.
Thanks. Gordon, you've got your hand up. Do you wanna come and have a chat?
Thank you very much. And David, yeah, loving what you've said right from the very beginning. I've also had the honour of studying at Middlesex University. I did a risk crisis and disaster management, and I'm the idiot that's on a ship in the Celtic Sea. So in the offshore industry and the high risk industry, we have all walks of life that come through. A lot of them, I would like to say, some of the best safety advisors and that come through from the trades or from the deck themselves. And like you mentioned there, if I want a specialist answer to an HSE question, I don't invariably go to the HSE advisor. If it's a deck crane or something, I'll go and ask the chief mate. He's done 30 years in it. And the analogy that you use, whether it's in mining, civils, geotechnical, whatever, you would ask the specialist. So if it's fire or environmental, you would look for the specialist in that role. It doesn't have to have IOSH or an HSE badge. In our industry also, I'd like to say that we tend not to have policemen and auditors in our HSE roles. And one of the academic pieces that I did with Middlesex University based on competence and risk, because there are so many definitions of competence and risk, but when you come down to it, I think my summary statement was something like, it's not what you are, it's who you are, and attributes of personality and character and how you interact with other people will do far more good than somebody waving 2 master's degrees at you. And in fact, if you look in the questions in the text box there, Steve Collinson came up with something that I'm very much aligned with. And sometimes all the people chasing all the bits of paper sometimes know very little about what the actual job involves. And some of the best HSC people I've come across are those that have come through the trades and decided that they would like to make people safer because they actually know what's going on in that particular work environment. And for me, you can't get better people than that. But for the people that want to be or graduates and are young, shall we say, in age, because I don't discount senior academics or those that do degrees, because I did my first one when I was 50 years old. But that might tell you something about how I felt about engineering. I wanted to know everything about engineering and then decide that I had an authoritative voice about how to keep it safe, as it were. Yeah, so not really a question in what I've done, but saying exactly what you have. And I belong to a few institutes, one of them being the IIRSM, who have recently, with the digital age, invoked interviews as part of their process of seeing who is deemed uh, to have fellowship, as it were. But it's no different than, like you were saying, about chartered levels and things like that. They're grades. They're something that institutes and associations are using to make a form for competency. But as you rightly pointed out, frameworks that are very much saying, well, what can you do at this, and not discounting level 3, 4s, sorry, 4, 5s, for instance, or even 8, because they all have their place in the world of keeping people safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Yeah, I mean, I think a broader risk approach at the degree that you used to the degree that was closed down, we should start up again. I think the world of COVID-19, if I dare swear, the perception to risk, I think, and how businesses manage risk, I think the idea of risk is so important. Part of the challenge with that is that, especially in London, there's this demand that risk has to be financial only risk. And yet, for many people, the idea of business risk, looking at resilience, looking at business continuity, I think is broader. And again, I've tried in our degree at Middlesex, I've tried to bring in the business continuity, event management risk as well, disaster management. Outside of here, I'm doing work. I can't say too much because of the degree of confidence is it, but there is the challenge. The thing that interests me is the aspect of civil contingencies and civil management when there's disaster going on around you. How a business as usual interacts with that. That's an area of interest that I've recently picked up on. Again, I think that should be an open goal there for OSH people, business continuity, because it takes you across all areas of the organisation, and generally it's paid better than health and safety.
And in today's market, you've got to market it along the lines with sustainability as well, because if it's not sustainable, it's going to be out of date or worthless in a month's time.
That's right. Now, I remember, according to UK visas, a health and safety advisor is not a highly skilled visa; it's medium skilled. So we have international students coming to institutions thinking, I'll get a job with my post-entry visa because it's a highly skilled visa. No, it's not. OSH isn't. Risk management is, and environmental health is, and I'm not surprised environmental health is far harder degree to get on. 5 professions in one. These guys know what they're doing. And guys, I mean, all genders. So I think for us to reposition as a risk manager, you're perceived as a management consultant. That's a highly skilled visa. So again, is broader risk management a natural progression route or a natural progression route for a safety person? I did my master's degree because back to 2000 at Bournemouth, because I wanted to lock in my knowledge as a manager. I wanted to do something, be assessed on it, and lock it in. And I found my master's route was my route to my doing a PhD, a far bigger period of problem solving. So again, we all have different routes at different stages. I'm pleased that people are learning still at 50. I did my MBA at 60. So there's no, please carry on studying. And I'm not saying do it because the university want the money, but it kept my mind really going. And I met Christian through all this as well. So
Well, there's always a downside, isn't there, to everything?
thanks, Gordon.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. And there's still lots going on in the chat. But yeah, come and have a chat with David. He won't bite. I mean, he's very friendly. So if we think about this from the perspective of, somebody who's joining us today and they're maybe a bit early on in their career, I mean, what would you say they should do in terms of trying to navigate this challenge? What would your advice be to somebody who was just starting out?
If they're starting out in the world of work, is understand how things around you work. Understand what is there. Interesting. Again, there were people within the discipline wanted younger people because it was all white middle-aged males for a big time. Then there was a lot of people from the nursing side came in. It's middle-aged women coming in, if I dare use 2 genders. So that was a real challenge we had. And then let's get younger people in. And I spoke to 1 or 2 so-called new people to it, who into IOSH, and they were on the future leaders. And when I spoke to them privately, they said actually our day job's also facilities management. Where FM OSH has been tagged on the side of it. They weren't really new. They had years of experience, managing. So I'd say go in, learn about the world around you, learn how people work. A big thing is understanding how people communicate. I'm also a trade union safety rep. I came into that in post 60 to be a trade union safety rep within the university environment, noting that Birmingham University have had action taken against them on stress, and that rippled around higher education at the moment. So look at maybe involvement in your trade union, get to know the safety team and the safety person. Don't be put off that the Health and Safety at Work Act and the regulations has lots of text. There's only there's an awful lot of repetition in the text and guidance. So don't be afraid to read things. A university will not teach you what the text says. You can read that yourself. It's how you apply the text. If you go to university at level 6 or level 7, that's final year undergraduate or masters, expect to have Clark being taught to read off the slide and write down everything. I remember doing my engineering degree when I was 18, and I remember the thermodynamics lecturer, an hour on on a Tuesday afternoon, just writing board after board of text from his textbook that he published, and then having to regurgitate it as part of the assessment. He didn't like that. I expect you need to understand how your sector works. So when you get into education, or else go to an NVQ where the things are linked in. There's apprenticeship funding for under 16 for level 6, 5, 4, and 3. There's no longer level 7. And there was a challenge, I think, for the industry per se out there. There was an opportunity, I think, to have a level 6 health and safety NVQ. Sorry, a degree apprenticeship for health and safety. Places like Middlesex University would be no doubt happy to work with trade bodies and organisations doing that. That's making it completely relevant. Okay. So
Something you said there.
the thought is don't go straight in to say I want to be a safety person.
Yeah.
Understand how the world will work around you. Look at the injustices. So, one of the best HR people I came across, he spent most of his years as a police sergeant in Thames Valley Police. And when he was too old to go around chasing people on the street, whatever he did, he became an HR person. Extremely pragmatic HR person. Really nice guy.
Something came to mind to me from my own background as you were talking there. So my degree was in French, and I did my A-level French, and I got an A, and I actually got 100% in my French oral A-level exam. So, from the perspective of what most people would perceive as, do you know French? Can you speak fluently in French? I was in pretty good spot. I then went and worked in France for 6 months before I went to uni. Was my French actually any better by having my degree in French? Probably not, actually. It wasn't really any better. I learned a bit about French literature, and I learned, a bit about politics and so on and so forth. But so I had this piece of paper, but was I any more competent in French than I was before I started university? Question mark.
I can't comment on that. I mean,
Yeah, no, but
it's getting it's getting that mindset. I mean, yeah, but people come into it from all. I think people can change careers. That's the whole thing. But what's the
yeah,
best way to think? So again, if you're coming in with a degree at 21, you've come in with a French degree. They used to have degree. There used to be the milk round. It was called generations ago when companies would get the best students, irrespective of what your degree was. They would commit to train you for 2 or 3 years to make you industry ready. They knew that the fact you've got a top degree in French, respect, because I've been married to a Russian for over 20 years and I speak about 6 words of Russian. So, but a company would take you and develop you with that. And I wonder if companies do that, if they look at the potential people who've got to train them to make them industry ready. But the relationship, I think business is very important going forward. And in the UK, I hope Burnham talked about reindustrialization. Something actually I agree with. I think we need to get jobs back into the UK. We have to be more sustainable, but the sectors we need people in, that's the question. That's part of how you're going to workforce plan.
Yeah. I wonder as well, Gordon. I'll come back to you in a second, but I wonder as well. What's it's a phrase, I suppose, not a story, but there's a phrase around you don't get fired if you hire IBM, right? So if you're making a purchasing decision and you go out and you choose the market leader that everybody knows, there's a degree of risk mitigation there, and you're not going to get into trouble because if IBM messes up, it's not your fault, it's IBM's fault. Whereas if you go for something a bit more risky, then that might come back on you. So I wonder if there's also a piece here around, a misunderstanding or a misperception that, if I'm the MD and I hire somebody who's got a degree or a level 7, or then that's going to protect me. And are we doing it from a place of fear? I suppose is there a
But
sort
you
of
would, but
fear?
if you're an MD of a small company, I wouldn't recruit somebody with an MSc.
No, yeah, of course, yeah.
Because we're back into this. So as you know, with stress management, it's underuse of your abilities is really stressful. Many people leave organizations because the challenges they want to have for them to develop aren't being given. Now,
Mm,
someone's developed. This is where companies, they see it's a low ceiling for us. This is what one of the challenges I'm very interested in. I actually looked to adapt that in 2018. They were saying the concept of this chief people officer, which we have, but why can't an OSH person become a chief people officer, managing HR people? I mean, if there are any health and safety qualified people who are managing HR people, please tell me. I'd like to have a chat with them. They've reached the utopia that other people can't. Why the low ceiling? Why the hierarchy that OSH is subordinate to HR? So there's a real perception out there, which is why do you become a risk manager? So at level 7 is your risk manager, the
mhm,
person going in saying, "Oh, I won't just make sure you tick in the box of compliant. I'm making sure, if people are competent. So what do we mean by competency? How can we evaluate? What are the risk profiles? How can we mitigate those? Um, I mean, I developed some fantastic emergency planning scenarios and business continuity scenarios. I was using some of the Hydra suites, and this is from my days in a local authority. And I had a great chief executive, but he was noted that he would only work to elevator pitches. It was always an elevator pitch. He didn't have all day for you. He would give you you wanted an idea. And many people at that level work like it. I understood how he worked. Most of the day's training, and the guy he came away from it and he thanked me for it. And full respect for the guy. And something else I did again, I got him engaged. So it was able to work at that level to engage people and not being seen as sort of just this safety person at the bottom. So again, you have to generate your own perception as well. So back to your gravitas at the end. So it's horses for courses, and back to this, as I say, speaking to a couple of employment agencies, they still will advertise for an EBOS diploma for a job because if they do it, another employment agency will do it for them. But they
yeah,
know there's a weakness. Now, one of the employment agencies has tried to develop with a third party a level 5 leadership award to utilize the apprenticeship levy funding. However, having said that, level 5, although it's called a leadership award, level 5 is not leadership in terms of the QAA framework. So we have here that, to get to that leadership level, you've got to put your own hand in your own pocket. I'm afraid that's the challenge with it, or be fortunate to be in a role where you can develop and grow with a good mentor.
yeah,
And the mentor
yeah.
may not be a health and safety mentor. The mentor might be from a different discipline.
Mm, mm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. What makes sense to look beyond. I mean, going back to what you were just saying there. I mean, I think that if you're an excellent OSH operator, you should be aiming to be the managing director of a business because if you're doing a really good job in this field, you should be getting to know all aspects of the business, what makes it tick, what makes it work, how people work well, what are the levers of operational efficiency, what are the levers of profit. That's all the stuff you need to know to run a business. So I think um, we we probably underplay and undervalue ourselves a little bit as well. So I think there's two sides to
And
that
I think
coin.
that's a challenge for both IOSH, both for IRSM, for AWSP, other professional. How do you get this gravitas But I'm going to put I'm going to put a little warning in here for somebody. Talking to a consultant that deals a lot with insurance companies. We are, with all this stuff on well-being, and I don't want to go down that route. The number of accidents that are still machines, entrapment, slips and trips, and other things. What the core of what you're doing, Christian, it's been forgotten.
Yeah,
people are walking. So we're not getting. People are focused. People want to generate. Being stuck in the same job. It's always said. So again, for everyone, there's an author, Hermina Ibarra, talks about personal identity. And if you're I mean, to be it's where do you see yourself? How do you get the journey to where you want to be? And a little clue in the work is, if you're going to be the problem solver to sort everybody else's problems out, you'll never career progress. So all of you thinking by helping out and doing everybody else's job, you might help keep the current job you're doing, but according to Ibarra's work, he will not become a leader. And our new master's degree in strategic leadership, we've actually brought in the work of Ibarra. We've brought in personal identity. At level 7, how can we make you lead? If you're going to invest £9,000 to go to Middlesex, or £10,000, how can we make you better? How can we get you to refocus on your career? And it's a real challenge, because although the marketplace wants it, people want it, I'm not sure there's enough money available in the very tight economy. I'm not sure if organisations know what they're looking for still.
Yeah,
but don't forget the basics. Don't forget the day job. The basics. The people are falling over. People are getting entrapped. We have, I look at my feeds. We're getting fires in lithium fires in refuse things. We're still looking at the basics. Got to be done, and that's where it goes back to supervisors and managers. Back to the broader what horses for courses, MVQ 3, 4, 5, maybe for supervisors and managers.
Yeah, makes good sense. Gordon, did you want to come back in with something?
Nobody else had their hand up, and it's such a topic that enthralls me. I had to have to join in and echo what David's saying. The horses for courses. Going back to the framework and where we start, at the beginning of people's careers, because the next generation, of course, with regards to risk or in the IOSH world, thinking more along the lines of the digital world that we're in, or AI, and how that's going to come into the workplace and be a part of how we're managing risk. And I'm looking at the text questions that come in, and a lot of people are saying, I want to do MVQ, I want to do this. And for me, I think, like you were saying, it's about personality and a passion for it. So I would say, like some of them are in the questions there, about a way to learn. It should be tailored to how you learn best. So there's no right or wrong answer, really. And some people are more practical, some people are more academic, and there's choices for everyone there, I believe. So whatever that you wish to do and to what level, think about how you actually learn. And a little anecdote from my background: when pre-teen, I used to learn about electronics or electrics, about one would bite you, one would kill you, in my grandfather's garage, and I used hand tools and things like that. So like you were saying, David, going back to basics, learn how the world operates and works around you, and where the risks are is primary. So for some people, it is right to go and get a degree and then look at the strategic, if it's in finance or something like that. But of course, for the everyday slips, trips and falls, and keeping people safe at a construction or maritime work site, is more evident to being a people person. So think about who you are as well as how you're going to learn. But for sure, you have to have a passion for it, because I feel that those that are pushed into the role or gain it as an extra hat on a discipline that they're doing as a sideline never seems to work too well. Thank you.
Yeah, some good points there. Mark, did you want to come in?
Oh, hi, Christian. Hi, David. You okay? Firstly, thanks for putting this session on. It's really been interesting, actually. So my question is around assessment, because we've talked a lot about different courses and things, levels, but I'm an educator myself. I teach at Sheffield Hallam. We do a lot of short courses, long courses in health and safety, mainly on construction and project management. But my main question is, what do you think around the best form of assessment? Like, what is the best way we can really demonstrate competency? Because if we look at construction training, particularly short courses, it tends to be mainly around knowledge based, answering questions, multiple choice answers, things like that, like the SES cards, the SMSTS courses, things like that. And then our assignments at universities tend to be around assessment based reports that could be actually quite easily AI'd as well, or elements of AI to assist students that may not have understanding of the topic fully. So my main question is, what do you think the best method of assessment is to demonstrate competency?
Doing something and then feedback on what you've done. Simple as that. Just a memory recall, all right. So I'll be careful what I say, because Sarah's one of my ex-students in the room. But we tried something. So we were where as you are, AI is out there doing things out there. You can, I mean, if you have Instagram or other Snapchats, you're getting stuff offering AI will write this and write that for you. We tried things. Let's give a complex case study. Let's get a real life case study. Redact everything in that's organizational based, and say this is a case study. Stick it in. Ask them to review it with something else. And I came back thinking this make the students work, and I came back thinking this isn't right. And I then went to ChatGPT. I uploaded the document. I said answer the question. It gave me a 2,000 word assignment. I just thought it can be beaten. So anything where one person's gone to do something. So if you say do some calculations or do calculations on something. So I've seen in other universities, I've seen level 4 and level 5 stuff where it's do calculations on that. One person can do it. They can then put it through. There's AI that does that, and the result is you wouldn't know someone else has done it. So basically, it paraphrases things. You can paraphrase things. So AI can do. One person does all the work. Everybody else, I paraphrase yours. Somebody, Christian paraphrases that person's using, and the AI detectors won't. So the traditional plagiarism tools will not pick these things up. I came across this one of my days working at Greenwich. Someone did a piece of work with 0% similarity. Or 3% similarity, it's called. It's called Turnitin, the software we use. I knew something stunk with it. But going back to 2016, 17, it wasn't so easy to prove. And so there's some work done at higher education by Greenwich, by University of Lincoln. We've done something at Middlesex now, where actually you're looking to redesign assessments and how you assess people. But for IOSH, back to what I said at the outset, people go away and do something. And yes, what I'm saying is, if you haven't got the ability to do something, then a degree is no longer something you can study. Things move on. As technology moves on, the need for something. So, when was the last time anybody saw car radios being advertised in Argos? Don't happen. You don't advertise. So advertising a degree, well, we will assess you in class from what you learn in class. Those days have gone. That ship sailed. And institutions now are realizing we've got the international market that many rely on extensively. How do you deal with that? How can you work with business to make these things happen? And there's a logical way of thinking that you only run courses and higher education that link to especially international markets, that lead to highly skilled jobs where there's skill shortages and visa supply. That's a whole new political debate, not one for here. But just start thinking how these things can fit together going forward. So I don't envy you at Sheffield Hallam, was it, sir? You mentioned.
Yeah, Sheffield Hallam, yeah.
Okay, so you've got definitely construction management. Definitely, it's getting people to do something. If
Yeah,
ask them to write about leadership, because AI can do it for you.
Yeah, that's the challenge we've got, really. We can do a lot of knowledge-based assessments quite easily, but we do have the challenge of AI that seems to be in there. So we try and do a lot more practical things with the students, but it's tough to do. It's tough to make sure they've got those competencies. And what's quite good is when we link it to the professional bodies. But yeah, it's tough to demonstrate all the skills.
You're on the same boat we're in, and I do wish you the best going forward, because it's a nightmare for those people in the room who are in higher education. Yeah, it's a real challenge, and I don't envy anybody's job doing it. It is tough, and the AI world has taken money and got ahead. We have to find a new niche. We have to find our own niche, our own place to make these things work. And by the way, health and safety is not included on many other degrees as well, I hasten to add, by the way. So many people coming up mention HR. Where's health and safety included? Where's health and safety in mechanical engineering master's degrees? How does that fit in? Well, where's the relationship to Pure and Lola, for example? And so it's how you use AI, by the way, is a question as well. It's when people are they're using generative AI, generating data to substitute for doing something for real. And again, we'll have what's called a viva, we'll have an oral exam, and we will then clearly understand they don't understand what they've written and said, and they'll be caught out that way.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, time is going on, Christian.
Yeah, no, conscious of time. So thank you for everybody for joining, and thanks, David, for joining us as well. Obviously, we could talk a long time more about this, but hopefully that's provoked some thinking and some ongoing discussion with people that have joined us today, or who listen or watch back this episode. If people do want to carry on the conversation, what's the best way to get in touch? Is it LinkedIn or email or?
LinkedIn is the best. You and I are both LinkedIn together. We got there's various chat rooms going on from that. Mainly the second session to follow up on ideas, because this is where everyone in the room comes in. What's the way forward for some of these things?
Yeah.
You know, I'm not hiding. I'm 65 next birthday. My career is largely behind me, I'd suggest. Things I still want to do. Many of you are a lot younger. Your careers are developing, or you're in profession and practice. You've got these challenges going on. What do you think of some of the solutions that we can build into it? How can we make the discipline more resilient? Is it still a discipline? Has AI taken this out? So again, please add your ideas and thoughts, and maybe step up and if you're in professional organizations, try to seek for roles in there, or maybe even set up your own organization with people. Maybe there's a gap in that market to be critical.
Definitely, yeah. Well, let's definitely continue this. It's a topic that is really important. It applies to all of us, so definitely one that's worth keeping the discussion going on. So yeah, thanks everybody, and thank you. Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah. All right, we'll see you again next time. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on the Safety and Risk Success podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please hit follow and do share on social media. Does anyone you know spring to mind as a great guest, even yourself? If so, please contact us on podcast@slipsafety.co.uk. See you next week for another episode.